well as our other amazing sponsors that have committed to this conversation, allow this episode and the fun that we like to have together here for the nonprofit show. So thanks so much to our sponsors. Julia Patrick, you know I love you. We always have such a great time together as CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy, and I am Jarrett Ransom, the nonprofit nerd, CEO of the Raven Group. And today, I'm just so thrilled, Bert, to have you join us. I am right here in your community. Julia's in your community. Just so happens that we live in a really, large metropolitan city. So the Phoenix Zoo is actually known throughout, I would say, the nation. You could correct me. It could be even further. So President and CEO Norberto Castro has joined us with the Phoenix Zoo. Good morning to you and happy Monday.
Good morning to both of you.
Thank you.
It's a great day today. The weather's not too hot this morning, so that's always nice when you're in.
That's true. And no parka for us today. We don't need that parka.
That's right.
Good Lord. Hey, Bert, I have to ask you, what are those animals? Are those the oryx that are behind you in this picture?
Those are actually our herd of bighorn sheep, which are found here. They're native to Arizona. We have, if the picture would zoom out, you would see these beautiful giant buttes that some zoos pay millions of dollars and build. We have them naturally here in the desert, and so it's really a great exhibit. It's several acres in size, and we have, I think, a herd of about 15 of those animals here at the zoo. So.
Well, I often see them on my morning walk. That's how close to you I am, or so close to the zoo that I am. So Julia, if you would like to see these in person, come walk with me.
I need to, because I'm an Arizona native, and I've seen these, I think, 3 times in my life. Twice at the bottom of the Grand Canyon and once, I think, in eastern Arizona. And they are majestic, and those horns are massive. So super cool. I might even have to do that. Hey, let's talk about the Phoenix Zoo, Bert. It's such an interesting place, and it's something that's so fascinating to me because it seems like the zoo, maybe in the 60s when it was started, was a place of entertainment. And now it seems like the focus has really become a lot more intellectual and conservation based. Is that right? Or is that just me?
I think zoos as a whole have moved from more of the entertainment side of things to they moved into bioparks and then now conservation centers. So the zoo's a really great place to bring your family to have a lot of really fun, wholesome time. But at the same time, there's a lot of serious work that's happening behind the scenes to really conserve and save many endangered species.
Yeah.
So you're not just working in the ecosystem of Phoenix, Arizona. It seems like the Phoenix Zoo is working with so many different animal populations outside the city, outside the state, across the globe. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. We work here. We have our conservation center here at the zoo, which focuses on native species. And earlier we were talking about the Mount Graham red squirrel, which is a squirrel here found in southern Arizona, and there are only about 70 of those animals left in the wild. But we also work with species found all over the world. We support conservation projects and support researchers throughout the world to make sure that animals around the world are thriving. A lot of our programs here at the zoo, the animals that we work with, we are involved in species survival plans, and we work cooperatively with other zoos around the country as well as around the world to save some of these species for reintroduction purposes back into the wild.
Interesting. So that leads me to this big question, because during COVID, this show was started as a result of the COVID pandemic. And we had so many guests, so many topics, so many discussions about the pandemic in regards to the human services, because we saw an uptick, obviously, and we knew that this was coming. So my question to you is, how does animal welfare fair during a pandemic, because it's such a tough choice for a lot of people. If you have families in human health, how do you continue to garner support or interest during this pandemic?
Well, I would have to say that animals need support as well. And, this pandemic has been tough for everybody. We have a staff here of generally in a normal year of about 430 people that are full-time and part-time staff, another 500 volunteers. And we had to really cut back as many organizations have had to cut back. We've cut back to about 195 people here at the zoo. But what we've done in terms of our animal collection is we've not cut back on our staffing. So the animals that are here at the zoo are getting great veterinary care. They're still getting great nutrition, great behavioral enrichment. And we focus on making sure that the animals here at the zoo are have great lives and are thriving here at the zoo. It's tough when you've got a pandemic and you've got, everybody's way of life has just been turned upside down. Trying to maintain a very large nonprofit. You may not know this, but the Phoenix Zoo is one of the largest nonprofits in the country that doesn't receive any public tax dollars at all for its operations. So, and when you have to close the door, in mid-March, we closed our doors for about 89 days. We opened back up because the pandemic, things were starting to get better. And then they got worse all of a sudden. So we had to close again for another 69 days. And we were closed for 180 or 160 days. And that takes a toll on an organization, takes a toll on the people. But fortunately, we've done a remarkable job with our animal collection, making sure that all our animals are well taken care of and doing well.
Yeah, that's obviously a place that, when it comes to the livelihood of your organization, Bert, that you cannot skimp on, right? Like you cannot skimp on not being able to care for these animals. And so that I'm sure had to stay top of mind. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for, of course, keeping that a priority, but also thank you for your transparency and sharing a lot of what you just shared and how the pandemic has, impacted the zoo. So we appreciate that.
So part of that is on the campaigns. I think the zoo has had some of the most creative campaigns, and you never just seem to have one. You're very, you seem to work with, and I say this in a good way, you seem to work within an ecosystem of so many different interests, right? So then you're out almost 200 days. What happened to all your campaigns?
Well, we were very fortunate. Let me go back just a little bit. The last 10 years has really been all about revitalization of the zoo. And so we've invested a lot of time and effort in the community, raising money to make this one of the finest zoos in the country. And we've been very fortunate to have raised about $60 million to do new exhibitories and revamp old exhibits throughout the zoo. When everything closed down, we were about 98% completed with our Pride campaign, which is a campaign to build new homes for our lions, our hyenas, our meerkats, really just a major upgrade for animal welfare and housing in the zoo. But everything kind of came to a halt. One of the things that we did is we started thinking about the zoo in a way that we'd never thought about before. And knowing that we weren't going to get people through the front gate, how are we going to monetize the zoo in a way that was safe for this pandemic, in a way that we could earn the revenues to make sure that we were taking care of our animals? And so we did several things, but another campaign that we started was our Zoo Relief Fund campaign. And that was basically just going out and making a plea to the community about our value as a cultural institution here in the Valley, and And lo and behold, that campaign raised about $950,000, which we were so surprised, but understood that our donors and our members really love the mission of the zoo. They love the conservation that we do. They love it that we're a community asset. There are many things we do here at the zoo that don't involve animals. We hold events for other nonprofits here at the Phoenix Zoo. So the zoo is a great gathering place. And unfortunately, we're in a time where we can't gather physically, but boy, they sure did come to our aid when we asked for it. And so, you know, just when you think you've exhausted the community with your handout, as nonprofits do, the people are there to support you and to help you and to really make it happen for you. And we're so grateful to the community for all their support.
That is fantastic. And I want to, sorry to jump in, Julia, but that is amazing. One of the things we've said, Bert, and the thing I say often to my clients, you know, that I work with is, you won't raise the money you need to raise if you don't ask, right? So while you said, yes, you know, it may have seemed exhausted, but very clearly your constituency base was right there to support you and very willing to support you. And one of the things I've seen during this pandemic, and I hope that the Phoenix Zoo has seen this as well, there has been so much generosity and so much altruistic giving. And your number, that campaign over 900,000, is commendable. So kudos
Thank
to
you very much.
Yeah, and your team for that.
So Bert, how long did it take for you all to get that organized and get that out? Because I can witness, and I have publicly, you know, I do totally believe in the science of the pandemic. I was thinking that it couldn't go on as long as it has. I was like, oh, you know, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, you know, and so how long did it take for your team to like put this together and then start pushing it out? I mean, it sounds to me like you did it pretty quickly.
We did do it pretty quickly, but we were probably 2 weeks into the pandemic because I and my board, like you, thought, well, this is going to be a problem. It's going to be a short-term problem. Things are going to be okay. And then it just kept going on. And so we really started to, you know, circle the wagons and try to figure out, okay, how can we, what are the things that we can do to first and foremost stay relevant? I think struggle with relevancy, you know, trying to be relevant to the community, to your donors. And then secondly is, wow, we are going to take a huge hit. In fact, we took, by the end of this month, we'll have taken about a $3.5 million hit in lost revenues, about 300,000 people who would have normally come to the zoo over this period of time. Unfortunately, were not able to come. And so that's, you know, for a nonprofit, that's even a large nonprofit, that's a huge hit. So we had to compensate and look for ways to try to monetize the zoo in a way that would help us get through this.
So I want to bring that up, and I know that maybe we're supposed to talk about it later, but Bert, I'm one of those parents that every year, every summer, send my kid to zoo camp. He loves it. He completely missed it this summer. And we go to the zoo quite a bit, right? Like one I'd shared, we're really close to the Phoenix Zoo. But one of the things we did on Mother's Day was we cruised the zoo in our car. And that was amazing. And I was blown away, truly, Bert. Like I thought, well, I've walked the zoo a lot, but I've never driven through the zoo. Let's do that. And I want to do it on Mother's Day, and I get to choose that activity, by golly, right? So we did that. We packed up, we went in the car. But truly, some of the things that I loved was you had, and I don't know the proper terms, but you had some of the handlers out there with like, it was some of the I want to call them stacking hawks, but they're kind of like, you know, hawks. And that was just cool to see, because not only were we looking at the exhibits, but we were also looking at some of the handlers, again, I hope that's right terminology, that were standing along the path. The other thing I admired and was just like fascinated coming at this from a fundraising mindset and strategic mindset all of your messaging, even by way of how far you needed to stay apart from each other, was related back to the zoo. So it was like, you need to stand one Komodo dragon away from the other car.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, the fact that like all of this was relatable, educational, and then wouldn't you know, just like the end caps at the grocery store, selling, stuffed animals that also made a contribution to
That's right.
the zoo. And I was like, darn you, zoo. Of course my kid's going to want this. But it was brilliant.
Well, it was,
Yeah,
again,
so
one of those
connecting
things
to
where
donors.
we were talking about how do we monetize the zoo, and started talking about some of the restaurants, and especially the fast food restaurants that kept
Yes.
drive-throughs open. So what did we do? I got my staff, we got into a car, we notified everybody in the zoo, and we said, hey, we're going to drive through the zoo to see if this can be done. And that's how it came up. We turned that around in about 3 days. So we made, we made lemonade out of a lemon, basically. We found
A
a
lot of
way.
lemons.
Yeah, we found a way, and that event that we've been doing now has generated about $1.4 million to the zoo, and people have loved it. It's a very safe way to come to the zoo. You get to see all the animals in your air-conditioned car, even when it's still a little warm, and it's just been a great event for everybody, and everybody's really enjoyed it.
So that was one way that definitely the zoo connected with its donors. And that is something that I know we wanted to talk about. And again, our connection, has really been through one of your major gift donors there at the zoo, Liz Toth, and dear friend of mine. And so I've just been so grateful and blessed to hear some personal exchanges that she and I have had to talk about connecting with donors. How has that gone for you, Bert? Especially coming from the CEO. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think because our traditional way to stay with donors is to have them out to the zoo, take them on a tour of the zoo, a carted tour, spend time with them. We've not been able to do those kind of things, so we've had to improvise. And again, it's kind of about how do you keep your donor base engaged. And one of the things we did is we started a digital safari, and it was free to our donors and to our members and to whoever. And so we decided to virtually take people into the zoo, go behind the scenes to places they never had an opportunity to go and see, and keep them engaged in the zoo and show them the animals, talk to the keepers. When people come out to the zoo, they don't want to talk to the president of the zoo. They want to talk to the keepers that are working with the animals, who know the animals. And they're really, they're our greatest gift, because those digital safaris have really given people an opportunity to learn about the zoo, to learn about the animals, to go to places that they'd never seen in the zoo. And it's been a really great way to, again, engage our audience, our stakeholders, the people that care about us, in a way that we probably wouldn't have thought of if it weren't for this pandemic.
Yeah.
So, Bert, one of the things that we ask all the time, and I think Jared is the one that started asking, what are some of the things that you're going to carry forward? Because it sounds to me like your organization has been super creative, super nimble, and then they've been able to actually execute. I mean, so all three of those things together are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But what do you see? So are you, I mean, it's still early, but are you seeing that some of these things you're going to be able to take forward?
Well, our hope is that we can get back to a more traditional way of doing things. Change is often very difficult for people. And I can remember as a young man, I'm a first generation immigrant, and I was talking to my father about the change from moving from his country over to the United States, and how difficult that is. And sometimes, and what I got out of that conversation was that change is inevitable. It's going to happen, and you may not like it, but learn how to live with it, and learn how to to work it and be nimble, pivot. I think in terms of some of our educational things that we're going to do, we're doing distance learning now, going into the classroom. That looks like something we'll be able to continue on as we move forward. Virtual zoo camps. Again, we'd prefer to have the kids out here, but if we can't, there might be a way to do a hybrid type virtual zoo camp that would allow us to do camps in a virtual way. So this whole idea of has really opened up. And not only that, in terms of the people that work here, I was never a big proponent about working from home. And guess what? A lot of us have been working from home, and my staff has just been blowing and going and doing a great job. So, how we do business is going to change a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit more lenient about, hey, I think I'm going to work home. I've got a project to do. And I'm probably going to say, go home and get the project done, because we've been forced into that. And now we have found that, wow, we can actually work with that. And I've just got such a versatile staff. They've been able to do wonders with during this whole pandemic, and it's good. So, we're always keeping our minds open for change, and there may be different ways to do things down the road, and we're going to consider those.
Silver linings, those all sound like, really good silver linings. I can attest that your team, Bert, is dedicated and loyal, and I come from, the mind of you can work anywhere. However, I will say, as a fundraiser and meeting with those donors, that makes it a little bit difficult, because you can no longer maybe do those golf cart rides with the donors, or maybe you need to install some plexiglass, right, or something to increase and enhance those standards. We don't have much time left, Bert. However, I would like to ask, and I hope this isn't putting you on the spot, but the email came out about this. I've done the zoo lights several years, right? And so when you talk about what might stay, do you mind sharing with us and all of the viewers now, as well as for the recording, what pivot the zoo has decided to do during the zoo light timeframe?
So, in a pandemic, you don't know what's going to happen from day to day, but right now we are going to have zoo lights this year. We are going to extend zoo lights. We're actually going to start our first night of zoo lights November 4th, right after the election. We figured we'd let that get behind us. Let it go through January 31st. And so by lengthening that zoo lights out, it allows for us to not have as much congestion. We have on a normal year about 300,000 people that come to zoo lights. It's one of the largest holiday light shows in the Southwest, maybe even in the country. It's a family tradition. People in the valley love zoo lights. So by extending it, I think will allow us the opportunity to have fewer people and maybe even a better experience. Sometimes when it gets so crowded, if you've got 10,000 people in there, you feel like a sardine walking through zoo lights. This is going to allow people to come to zoo lights. We've actually lengthened the zoo lights, so it's going to be a much longer walk. We're bringing in some really cool lanterns and millions and millions of lights. One of the things we're going to do is it's going to be hybridized. We're actually going to have a drive-through opportunity for those that might not be quite ready to get out and go to a venue, more in a more traditional way. We're going to have about 25 nights, I believe, maybe give or take a few, and allow people to actually go through zoo lights in their car. And so that should be a really wonderful experience.
Well, that's amazing. And of course, those need to be on separate nights, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. They'll be on separate nights.
Yeah. Like, oh, how many points do I get for this person? No, we're not playing that game. Definitely not at the zoo. I am so sad that our time has come to a close, Bert. I could talk to you for hours. I would love to come to the zoo and talk to the president and CEO of the zoo. So that's who I am. But this has been amazing. Thank you so much for telling the story of the Phoenix Zoo, especially during this time of the pandemic. So thrilled to have you on and to learn more about the organization. And Julia's right, like the whole ecosystem and impact of the Phoenix Zoo around our entire globe. So thanks for all that you do, Bert. Thanks for your amazing leadership there at the zoo and for our community at large. Julia, I'll let you take it away.
Hey, here's Bert's information. What a great leader. We are very honored that you would come and take this amazing time to talk about this treasure, really for our not only our community, but a model for, the modern world. It's super exciting to see how you've been able to be creative during such an incredible time. And so that is a super cool thing about leadership, is that we get to do this and meet with these people through the nonprofit show. Again, thank you, Bert, so much. I'm Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy, joined by my co-host, the nonprofit nerd, Jarrett Ransom. Hey, we want to thank our sponsors. Without you, we would not be having conversations such as this. So thank you very much. Make sure to take that quick survey. We really need your feedback. And all of you will have received a link to that yesterday on the e-blast that we send out previewing the week's guest. I suspect you might be getting another little email with another link later in the week. So 10 questions, 3 minutes of your time, but invaluable for Jarrett and I. Again, on Fridays, we have our Asked and Answered show. So if you have any questions, there are 4 ways to get in front of us. Sponsored by your part-time controller. Super fun show, had great questions. We always do, but this last Friday was like pretty amazing. So
there were some tough questions.
There were tough questions. So we want to see you there with us. And again, the Nonprofit Show thanks you for being with us. As we end every show, I always like to remind you, what do I say, Jarrett?
Stay well so we can do well.